Hello, my name is Jesus Martinez, and today I'll be going over the comprehensive assignment 3 for acid and base equilibrium. For the first question, you need to find what the concentration of H3O is, OH and POH. The concentration of H3O can actually be found using the opposite of the pH. Or you're using the pH to find what the concentration is. So you do 10 to the power of negative pH, which would give you this concentration of 6.31 times 10 to the power of negative 4 molality. And to find pOH, it's really easy. You just have to do 14 minus what the pH was, which is 3.2, and it should give you 10.8. And then to find the concentration of OH is the same process as how you did for the first part. And it's just 10 to the power of negative pOH, which is 10.8. And it should give you 1.58 to the power times 10 to the power of negative 11 molality. For question 2, it's talking about the fire ants formic acid, and I wrote down the equation here, which is formic acid with H2O to make H3O and then HCOO negative. Using the ice table, you can actually find out that at equilibrium, the concentration of the formic acid is 0.16 that it already had minus X, and putting this into the Ka, K equals the two products over the reactant, which was the X squared over 0.16 minus X, and it actually gives you the Ka value, which is 1.77 times 10 to the power of negative 4, and we're trying to figure that one out. It gives you the X value of 5.32 times 10 to the power of negative 3. I also want to mention that you don't use the 5% rule on here because this value 1.77 times 10 to the power of negative 4 is not like it doesn't work because it's not to the power of negative 5 or more. But yeah, I put this into the calculator to give me the X value, which is also the concentration of H3O. And then to do the percentage dissociation, you put the concentration, which is 5.32 times 10 to the power of negative 3, divided by the initial, which was 0.16 molality, and you multiply it times 100 to get a percentage, and it should give you 3.33. And I want to also mention, well, using the concentration, you can also find the pH, which is just negative log what the concentration was, and should give you 2.27. For number 3, it's mentioning what are the differences between part 1 and part 2. Part 1 uses the strong acid known as HCl, and part 2 uses the weak acid known as HCOOH. I also wanted to mention that HCl produces more H3O, so it dilutes more. For question 4, the concentration is given 1.2 molality, and you can find the pOH using negative log the concentration, which should give you negative 0.08. And then to find the pH, you just do 14 minus that, which should give you 14.08. For number 5, it's telling you to use NH3. So you add that with water to form the equilibrium, and that gives you the initial molality minus X. So it gives you the equilibrium is 1.2 minus X. And in this one, actually, you're finding KB since you're trying to figure out what the base is. And you end up using the 5% rule, so you can get rid of the negative X on the denominator. So it's X squared on the numerator with 1.2 on the denominator, and should give you, it also provides the KB value, which is 1.76 times 10 to the power of negative 8. And so using the calculators, I should give you the X value of 1.45 times 10 to the power of negative 3, which is also known as the concentration of OH. And putting that into with negative log should give you the pOH of 2.84. And 14 minus the pOH should give you the pH, which is 11.16. And then question 6 is asking about the differences. the two bases. Part 4 mentions NaOH, which is known as a strong base. And then part 5 is mentioning NH3, which is actually a weak base. And another thing I wanted to mention on that was that the pH is higher for the NaOH. Yeah, as you can see, it was 14.08 instead of 11.16. And then number 7, talking about the scenario of the fire ants. The fire ants actually inject the formic acid, and then well, that acid gets into your skin and irritates you. But washing it with soap and water actually removes some of the acid itself and from the skin surface, and actually can dilute what is in there, so it breaks apart the acid. Um, and the cold compress is actually pretty good for the swelling and the inflammation because it restricts, or it like makes the blood vessels narrow by compressing them, and yeah, it just makes less blood get to the area, so it stops the swelling, it stops the redness, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.